Oh my God, I just...
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, everybody.
Hi. Welcome to our 101st night of
101st.
101st of 1001 Nights.
Are we going to move?
Yes, we will move this one.
Are you going to do that? You're very good at that.
There you go.
Okay, comfy. Oh, look, we've got hello, everybody.
Hi.
We're doing this together for the first time. She's very dominant.
I'm organized. I'm organized.
And I'm like, yeah, it'll be fine. Don't worry.
It's all good.
So you can't hear it anymore, actually, but there was a huge storm raging outside when we started setting up an hour ago this evening.
And where did we sit up?
We set up in the very, very beautiful and lovely bookshop, because where else are you going to do a reading if not in a bookshop?
And this is Shakespeare and Company, which we recommend highly from the bottom of our hearts.
Exactly.
It's in the First District.
It is. It's actually in a really good part of the First District, because what you can do here is you can choose a book and then walk across the road and have a glass of wine.
Really?
Because this is for those of you who don't know Vienna so well. If you're going to come and visit Vienna, oh, thank you very much for the hearts and likes. We should do this together more often.
Yes, we should.
We should. Oh, did you hear that thunder? That's thunder.
That's a good sign.
If you don't know this area, it's an area of Vienna, very, very famous area of Vienna called the Bermuda Dreieck, okay, which is the Bermuda Triangle. The idea being that there are so many bars and restaurants in this area that you will get lost in it and never come out again. That was the history and the idea behind it.
And behind us, apropos, are lovely lamps. I hope you can see them, which are being sponsored for tonight's evening by Hookah, which is a lamp shop. Oops,
there you go.
Which is a lamp shop in the 7th District on Westbahnstraße. We're going to tag our partners of tonight after the reading.
We will do, and we will take special photos just for the lamps, because you can't see them quite so well from over there, but they're really actually very, very beautiful. So we're very lucky. And of course, oh, I better be careful. Hold on to those glasses a second, because if I move them, and of course, we do have. Make a wish, Saman. Go on, go for it. You've never stroked the lamp before. Stroke the lamp, Saman. But I'm not my energy. My energy can't be on it, so go for it.
All right.
Let's see what happens. Maybe she gets the gin out. I never did. He never came to me. Or the Ilfritina. What is it? Ilfritina. Oh, here we go. She's taking it very seriously. In your own time.
What? Hi?
No one. Hello.
He's coming later. He's coming later.
No,
the gin is coming later.
He's not. The thing is, as we know from previous stories, the things about those Ilfrits and Ilfritinas, Ifrits and Ifritinas is that they tend to spell bad trouble. Yes,
I put this here on the
you
side.
put it there, and I'll put mine there on the side there.
Okay.
So what have you got with you, Saman? Because Saman wrote this long list of the things that she was bringing today. She's got tissues with her.
Yes.
She's got sweeties with her.
Yes, for your throat later if you need
Oh,
one.
right. Okay, thank you.
And Joanna will start with the 101st night.
I will.
Yes,
I
and I will
start
continue
But
with
wait, I wanted to
102nd.
ask Saman a question, because I was
you
actually
wanted to
very
make the
interested.
travel joke.
Yes. I was very interested, because actually I don't know, because we always do this separately. And so actually us being together this evening for the first time was quite interesting for both of us. Because we're both a little bit alpha Tira type people, I think that would be true to say, wouldn't it? And so it was very interesting to find out, how do you set up of an evening?
How I set up?
Yeah, normally what do you do? What's your process for setting up when you're on your own in your own apartment and Joanna's not around?
You mean the furniture and everything?
Well, just generally, I mean, what do you do? What's the process? Do you have a process
I
you go
prepare,
through?
yes, I do prepare the text, because I am not a native English speaker, even though I do sound like one and I get hired as one. But I did learn American English, so I am working on my British English, so it takes me a little longer to prepare. So I do that, I prepare the text, and then I put the sofa, the light, water, tissues, and I move the cat out of the way.
And now you have a tripod as well.
And now I have a tripod, because she was so lovely and gave me a tripod.
I know. I was actually going to make this big presentation of the tripod at the end of the evening, and then we discovered we needed the tripod to be able to stick a poster on it. So it became very unromantic, and very unceremoniously I gave her the tripod beforehand. What did I do with my text? Oh, there it is.
Got it? Shall we start?
Yes.
Please say your sentence without further ado.
Without further ado, Children, I will take a little sip of water because now we've spoken so much and got excited about the lamps. We do have guests with us this evening,
Yes.
by the way. We have Laura.
But only two.
Only two, that's true. And some employees of Vienna Theatre Project and well, we have four, kind of. Is that
Yes,
allowed?
it's four.
It's
Two
four,
people
but
who work here and two people who are guests.
Exactly.
Sorry.
So
We have guests.
we have
All right,
guests.
Let's
exactly.
continue.
Let's
shall we?
continue, shall we? Thank you. Oh, that water's fizzy. I didn't know that. There you go.
They didn't have any other.
Right.
Enjoy
now,
the reading.
ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I am going to have the great pleasure and honour to read to you the 101st night. So, yay! So I hope you are all sitting very comfortably. Only two guests in the room. And who all came in from the rain. Thank you very, very much. Or the bars across the road as well, I believe. Anyway, so here we go. So, now, when it was the 101st night, Scheherazade said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Sharkan congratulated his brother, Zal al-Makan, on his safety and thanked him for the deeds he had done, after which both set out forcing their marches to rejoin their army. Such was their case, but as regards the old woman, Zat al-Dawahi, after she had foregathered with the hosts of Rustan and Bahram, she returned to the Capice, where she took her steed and mounted and sped on at speed, till she drew near the Muslim army that beleaguered Constantinople, when she lighted down from her destriere and led it to the pavilion tent of the chief chamberlain. And when he saw her, he stood up to her in honour and signed to her with his right hand and said, 'Welcome, O pious recluse.' Then he questioned her of what had befallen, and she repeated to him her disquieting lies and deluding calumnies, saying, 'In sooth, I fear for the Emir Rustam and the Emir Bahram, for what I met them and theirs on the way and sent them and their following to relieve the king and his companions. Now there are but 20,000 horse, and the unbelievers outnumber them. So I would have thee at this moment send off the rest of thy troops at full speed to their succour, lest they be slain to the last man.' And she cried to them, 'Haste! Haste!' When the chamberlain and the Muslims heard these words, their spirits fell and they wept. But Zat al-Dawahi said to them, 'Ask aidance of Allah and bear patiently this tribulation, for ye have the example of those who have been before you, of the people of Muhammad, and paradise of its palaces is laid out by Allah for those who die martyrs. And needs must all die, but most praiseworthy is dying when fighting for the faith.' The chamberlain, hearing this speech of the accursed old woman, called for the Emir Bahram's brother, a knight by name of Tarkash, and choosing out for him 10,000 horse, riders famed for force, bade him set out at once. So he fared forth and marched all that day and the whole of the next night till he neared the Muslims. When daylight dawned, Sharkan saw the dust cloud about them and feared for the men of al-Islam and said, 'If these troops which are coming upon us be Muslim men, our victory is assured by them. But if these be Nazarenes, there is no gainsaying destiny's decrees.' Then he turned to his brother, Zal al-Makan, and said, 'Never fear, for with my life I will ransom thee from death. If these be Mohammedan troops, then were it an increase of heavenly favours. But if they be our foes, there is no help save that we fight them. Yet do I long to meet the holy man ere I die, so I may beg him to pray that I die not save by death of martyrdom.' Whilst the twain were thus speaking, behold, there appeared the banners inscribed with the words, "There is no God but the God, and Muhammad is the apostle of God." And Shah Khan cried out, "How is it with the Muslims?" "All are sound and safe," replied they, "and we came not but one out of concern for you." Then the chief of the army dismounted, and kissing ground before Shah Khan, asked, "O my lord, how be the Sultan and the Wazir Dandan and Rustam and my brother Bahram? Are they all in safety?" And he answered, "All well. But who brought thee tidings of us?" Quoth Tarkash, "It was the holy man, who told us that he had met my brother Bahram and Rustam, and had sent them both to you, and he also assured us that the infidels had encompassed you and outnumbered you. But I see not the case, save the contrary thereof, and that you are victorious." They questioned him, "And how did the holy man reach you?" And he replied, "Walking on his feet, and he had compassed in a day and a night 10 days' journey for a well-girt horseman. There is no doubt but that he is a saint of Allah," said Shah Khan. "But where is he now?" They rejoined, "We left him with our troops, the folk of the faith, moving them to do battle with the rebels and the faithless." Thereat Shah Khan rejoiced, and all thanked Allah for their own deliverance and the safety of the holy man, and commended the dead to his mercy, saying, "This was writ in the book." Then they set out, making for Constantinople by forced marches. And whilst they were on this enterprise, behold, a dust cloud arose to such height that its wall the two horizons, the eastern and the western, from man's sight, and the day was darkened by it to night. But Shah Khan looked at it and said, "Verily, I fear lest this be the infidels who have routed the army of al-Islam, for that is the dust walleth the world, east and west, and hideth the two horizons, north and south." Presently appeared under the dust a pillar of darkness, blacker than the blackest of dismal days, nor ceased to come upon them that column more dreadful than the dread of the day of doom. Horse and foot hastened up to look at it and know the terrors of the case, when behold, they saw it to be the recluse aforesaid. So they thronged around him to kiss his hands, and he cried out, "O people of the best of mankind, the lamp which shineth in darkness blind, verily the infidels have outwitted the Muslims by guilt, for they fell upon the host of the one God, whilst they redeemed themselves safe from the faithless, and attacked them in their tents, and made a sore slaughter of them while they looked for no while, and hasten to the aid of the believers in the unity of God, and deliver them from those who deny him." Now, when Shah Khan heard these words, his heart flew from his breast with sore trouble, and, alighting from his steed in amazement, he kissed the recluse's hands and feet. On likewise did his brother Zal al-Makan and the rest of the foot and horse troops, except the Wazir Dandan, who dismounted not, but said, "By Allah, my heart flieth from this devotee, for I never knew show of devotion to religion that bred not bane. So leave him, and rejoin your comrades the Muslims, for this man is of the outcasts from the gates of the mercy of the Lord of the three worlds. How often have I here made razzias with King Omar bin al-Nu'man, and trodden the earth of these lands?" Said Shah Khan, "Put away from thee such evil thought. Hast thou not seen this holy man exciting the faithful to fight, and holding spears and swords light? So slander him not, for backbiting is blamable, and poisoned is the flesh of the pious. Look how he inciteth us to fight the foe, and did not Almighty Allah love him? He had cast him aforetime into fearful torment. Then Shah Khan bade bring a Nubian mule for the ascetic to ride, and said, Mount, O pious man, devout and virtuous. But the devotee refused to side and feigned self-denial, that he might attain his end. And they knew not that this holy personage was like him of whom the poet saith, He prayeth and he fasteth, for an end he doth espy. When once his end is safely won, then fast and prayer goodbye. So the devotee ceased not to walk among the horsemen and the footmen like a wily fox meditating guile, and began to uplift her voice, chanting the Quran and praising the Compassionate One. And they continued pressing forward till they approached the camp of Al-Islam, where Shah Khan found the Muslim in conquered plight, and the chamberlain upon the brink of failing back in flight, whilst the sword of Greece havoc dight among the faithful, the righteous, and those who work unright. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased saying her permitted say.
Now when it was the 102nd night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when Shah Khan saw the Muslims in conquered plight, and the chamberlain upon the brink of retreat and flight, and the sword havoc dight among the righteous and the workers of unright, the cause of this weakness among the Muslims was that the accursed old woman, Zat al-Dawahi, the foe of the faith, after seeing that Bahram and Rustam had set forward with the troops to join Shah Khan and his brother, Zaw al-Makan, repaired to the camp of the Mahometans before Constantinople, and caused the mission of the Emir Tarkash, as hath been said before. In this her purpose was to divide the Muslim forces the better to weaken them. Then she left them and entered Constantinople, and called with a loud voice on the knights of the Greeks, saying, Let me down a cord, that I might tie thereto this letter, and do ye bear it to your King Afridun, that he may read it, and to my son King Hardub, that they both do what is written therein, of bidding and forbidding. So they let down for her a string, and she tied thereto a letter whose purport was the following. From the terriblest of tribulations and the chiefest of all calamities, Zat al-Dawahi to King Afridun greeting. But afterwards, of a truth I have contrived a device for destroying the Muslims, so bide ye quiet and content. I have cozened and captured the Sultan and the Vizier Dandan, and then I returned to their camp and acquainted them therewith, whereby their pride had fall, and their withers were wrong. And I have so wrought upon the host, leaguing Constantinople, that they have sent 10,000 men under the Emir Tarkash to succor the captives, of whom there be now left but few. It is therefore my object, thank you, that ye sally forth against them with all your power, while this day endureth, and that ye fall on them in their tents, and that ye leave them not till ye shall have slain them to the last man. For verily the Messiah looketh down upon you, and the Blessed Virgin favoureth you. And I hope of the Messiah that he forget not what deed I When her letter came to King Afridun, he rejoiced with great joyance, and sending at once for King Hardub of Greece, son of Zat al-Dawahi, read the letter to him as soon as he came, whereat he was exceeding glad and said, "See my mother's craft, verily it dispenseth with swords, and her aspect standeth instead of the terrors of the day of dread." Rejoined Afridun, "May the Messiah not bereave us of thy venerable parent, nor deprive her of her wile and guile." Then he bade the knights give orders for selling outside the city, and the news was noised abroad in Constantinople. So the Nazarenes and the cohorts of the cross burst forth and unsheathed their keen sabres in their numbers, shouting out their professions of impiety and heresies, and blaspheming the Lord of all creatures. When the chamberlain saw the sally, he said, "Behold, the Greek is upon us, and they surely have learned that our Sultan is far away. And haply they have attacked us, for that the most part of our troops have marched to the succor of King Zau al-Makan." Therewith he waxed wroth and cried out, "Ho, soldiers of al-Islam, and favourers of the true faith! And you flee, you are lost. But if ye stand fast, ye win. Know ye that valiancy lieth in endurance of outrance, and that no case is so straight, but that the Almighty is able to make it straight. Allah assain you and look upon you with eyes of compassion fain." Thereupon the Muslims cried out, "Allahu Akbar," and the believer in the one God shouted his slogan and whirled the middle wheels of fight with cutting and thrusting in main and might. Scimitars and spears played sore, and the plains and valleys were swamped with gore. The priests and monks priested it, tight girding their girdles and uplifting the crucifixes, while the Muslims shouted out the professions of the requiting king, and verses of the Quran began to sing. The hosts of the Compassionate One fought against the legions of Satan, and head flew from body of man, while the good angels hovered above the people of the chosen prophet. Nor did the sword cease to smite till the day darkened, and night came on and starkened. Now the miscreants had encompassed the Muslims and made sure of escaping the pains that awaited them. And the faithless greeded for victory over the faithful until day dawned and dazzled. Thereupon the chamberlain mounted, he and his men, trusting that Allah would help them to victory, and host was mingled with host, and battle rose afoot and took post. And heads flew from trunks, whilst the brave stood fast instead. The craven turned tail and fled, and the judge of death judged and sentenced sped, so that the champions fell from their saddles, slain and corpses cumbered meadow and plain. Then the Muslim began to give ground, and rewards bent, and the Greek took possession of some of their tents, whereupon the Muslims were about to break and retreat and take flight, when meanwhile, behold, up came Shah Khan with the rest of the host of al-Islam and the standards of the believers in unity. And having come up with them, he charged the infidels, and followed him Zau al-Makan and the Vizier Dandan and the Emirs Bahram and Rustam with his brother Takash. When the foe saw this, they lost head, and their reason fled, and the dust clouds towered till they covered the country, whilst the righteous believers joined their pious comrades. Then Shah Khan accosted the chamberlain and praised him for his steadfastness, and he, in turn, gave the prince joy of his timely succor and his gaining the day. Thereat the Muslims were glad, and their hearts were heartened, so they rushed upon their enemies and devoted themselves to Allah in their fight for the faith. But when the idolaters, beheld the standards Mohammedan, and thereon the profession of faith Islamitan, proclaiming the unity, they shrieked, woe and ruin, and besought succor of the patriarchs of the monastery. Then fell they to calling upon John and Mary and the cross abhorrent, and stayed their hands from slaughter, whilst King Afridun went up to consult King Hardup of Greece. For the two kings stood one at the head of each wing, right and left. Now there was with them also a famous cavalier, La Villa Hyde, who commanded the centre, and they drew out in battle array, but indeed they were full of alarm and affray. Meanwhile the Muslims aligned their forces, and thereupon Shahkam came to his brother Zau al-Makan and said, O King of the age, doubtless they mean to champion it, and it is also the object of our desire. But it is my wish to push forward the stoutest hearted of our fighters, for by forethought is one half of life wrought. Replied the Sultan, as thou wilt, O companion of good counsel. It is my wish, added Shah Khan, to stand in midline opposite the infidel, with the Vizier Dandan on my left, and thee on my right, whilst the Emir Bahram leads the dexter wing, and the Emir Rustam leads the wing sinistral. And thou, O mighty king, shalt be under the standards and the ensigns, for that thou art the pillar of our defence. Upon thee, after Allah, is our dependence, and we will all be thy ransom from aught that can harm thee. Zau al-Makan thanked him therefore, and the slogan arose and the sabre was drawn. But as things stood thus, behold, there came forth a cavalier from the ranks of Rome. And as he drew near, they saw that he was mounted on a slow-paced she-mule, fleeing with her master from the shock of swords. Her housings were of white silk, covered by a prayer carpet of cashmere stuff, and on her back sat a sheikh, an old man of comely presence and reverent aspect, garbed in a gown of white wool. He stinted not pushing her and hurrying her on till he came near the Muslim and said, I am an ambassador to you all, and an ambassador hath naught to do save to deliver. So give me safe conduct and permit of speech, that I communicate to you my message. Replied Shah Khan, thou art in safety, fear neither sway of sword nor lunge of lance. Thereupon the old man dismounted, and taking the cross from his neck, placed it before the Sultan, and humbled himself with much humility. Then quoth to him the Muslims, what is with thee of news? Then quoth he, I am an ambassador from King Afridun, for I counselled him to avert the destruction of all these frames of man and temples of the compassionate one. And to him it seemed righteous to stay the shedding of blood, and limit it to the encounter of 2 knights in shock of fight singular. So he agreed to that, and he saith to you, verily I will ransom my army with my life. So let the Muslim king do as I do, and with his life ransom his host. And if he kill me, there will be no stay left in the army of Rome. And if I kill him, there will be no stability with the Muslims. When Shah Khan heard this, he said, O monk, I agree to that, for it is just, nor may it be gainsaid. And behold, I will meet him in duello, and do with him daring do, for I am champion of the faithful, even as he is champion of the faithless. And if he slay me, he will have won the day, and naught will remain for the Muslim forces, save flight. So return to him, O thou monk, and say that the single combat shall take place tomorrow. For this day we have come off our journey, and are weary, but after rest neither reproach nor blame fear ye. So the monk returned, and he, rejoicing to King Afridun and King Hardup, and told them both what Shah Khan had said, Whereat King Afridun was glad with exceeding gladness, and fell from him anxiety and sadness. And he said to himself, no doubt but this Sharkan is the doughtiest swayer of the sword, and the durest at lunge of lance. And when I shall have slain him, their hearts will be disheartened, and their strength will be shattered. Now Zat al-Dawahi had written to King Afridun of that, and had told him how Sharkan was a knight of the brave, and the bravest of knights, and had warned him against him. But Afridun was a stalwart cavalier, who fought in many a fashion. He could hurl rocks and throw spears, and smite with the iron mace, and he feared not the prowest of the proud. So when he heard the report of the monk that Sharkan agreed to the duello, he was like to fly for exceeding joy, because he had self-confidence, and he knew that none could withstand him. The infidels passed that night in joy and jubilee, and wine bibbing. And as soon as it was dawn, the two armies drew out with the sword of spear and the blanch of blade. And behold, a cavalier rode single-handed into the plain, mounted on a steed of purest strain, and for foray and fray, full ready and fain. And that knight had limbs of might, and he was clad in an iron cuirass, made for stress of fight. On his breast he wore a jewelled mirror, and in his hand he bore a keen scimitar, and his lance of Khajlanj wood, the curious work of the Frank, weighing a quintal. Then the rider uncovered his face and cried out, saying, whoso knoweth me verily hath enough of me, and whoso knoweth me not, right soon shall ken who I be. I am Afridun, the overwhelmed by the well-omened Shawahi, Zat al-Dawahi. But he had not ended speaking, ere Sharkan, the champion of the Muslims, fared forth to meet him, mounted on a sorrel horse worth 1,000 pieces of red gold, with accoutrements purfled in pearls and precious stone. And he bore in baldric a blade of watered Indian steel, that through necks shore, and made easy the hard and sore. He drave his charger between the two hosts in line, whilst the horsemen all fixed on him their eye. And he cried out to Afridun, woe to thee, O cursed! Dost thou deem me one of the horsemen thou hast overtaken, who cannot stand against thee on battle plain? Then each rushed upon other, and they bashed together like two mountains, crashing, or two billows dashing and clashing. They advanced and retreated, and drew together and withdrew, and stinted not of fray and fight and weapon play, and strife and stay, with stroke of sword and lunge of lance. Of the two armies, looking on, some said, Sharkan is victor, and others, Afridun will conquer. And the two riders stayed not their hands from the hustle, until ceased the clamour and the bustle. And the dust columns rose and the day waned, and the sun waxed yellow and wan. Then cried out King Afridun to Sharkan, saying, by the truth of the Messiah and the faith which is no liar, thou art naught save a doughty rider and a stalwart fighter, but thou art thoughtful, and thy nature is not that of the noble. I ken thy work as other than praiseworthy, nor is thy prowess that of a prince. For thy people behave to thee as though thou wert a slave. And see, they bring thee out a charger which is not thine, that thou mayest mount and return to the fight. But by the truth of my faith, thy fighting irketh and fatigueth me, and I am weary of cutting and thrusting with thee. And if thou purpose to lay on load with me tonight, thou wouldst not change aught of thy harness nor thy horse, till thou approve to the cavaliers thy generous blood and skill in brunt. When Sharkan heard him say this word concerning his own folk behaving to him though he were a slave, he waxed wroth, and turned towards his men, meaning to sign to them and bid them not prepare him change of harness or horse, when lo, Afridun shook his throw spear in high in air and cast it at Shah Khan. Now when the Muslim turned his back, he found none of the men near him, and he knew this to be a trick of the accursed infidel. So he wheeled round in haste, and behold, the javelin came at him. So he swerved from it till his head was bent low as his saddle bowed. The weapon grazed his breast and pierced the skin of his chest, for Shah Khan was high-bosomed, whereupon he gave one cry and swooned away. Thereat the accursed Afridun was joyful, thinking he had slain him, and shouted to the infidels, bidding them rejoice, whereat the faithless were encouraged, and the faithful wept. When Zau al-Makan saw his brother reeling in cell, so that he well nigh fell, he dispatched cavaliers towards him, and the braves hurried to his aid, and came up with him. Thereupon the infidels drove at the Muslims. The two hosts joined battle, and the two lines were mingled, whilst the keen scimitar of Al-Yaman did good work. Now the first to reach Shah Khan was the Vizier Dandan, and Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day and ceased saying her permitted say. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for our 4 guests.
Oh, we were allowed to admit there are 4 now, not 2.
No, it's 4 including the bookshop.
Oh, well, I see. Yes, of course. Yes, right.
It's the heat and the pandemic.
It's the heat.
Thank you
very much. I don't know if you can hear it. No, wait a minute.
Yes.
We haven't finished yet. Are you in a rush to go?
No.
No, good. That's a good thing, because she's always in such a rush to get off, right? I'm like, let's chat for a bit. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. It was so lovely having you here. Oh, we got some applause. And we didn't have to fake it. That's real applause. That's not...
We never faked it. Let me wave back at the people while we're at it. You keep talking.
All right. Can you see what they're saying?
No, I'm just waving. You just keep saying, I'll wave.
All right.
Somebody's saying hello, hello.
Hello.
I can't
What was
scroll.
I going to say? I can't remember what I was going to say now. Oh, did you hear? I don't know if you heard the thunder behind us, but that was a lot of fun hearing that. And actually, it was quite difficult sometimes concentrating. I don't know if Saman felt the same, because there is a bar right across the road. And they were chatting away to each other and clinking glasses and all sorts of stuff. So it was a little bit difficult to concentrate just occasionally. I found it. So
I found the drunken voice the most disturbing. I thought that wasn't it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not even 10 o'clock.
It's not, I know, it's not even 10 o'clock. And there's a pandemic going on. What are they thinking? I mean, we because we're so conscious, we didn't even have lots of guests. We could have invited lots of people to join us this evening.
Of course, but we're not doing that.
No, we're not doing that because of the whole pandemic thing. And, but it was an absolute pleasure.
It was really. Thanks again to Shakespeare and Company.
Thank you very
Vienna.
much to Shakespeare and
Thank
Company.
And thank you to Huta, who provided us with the lamps.
Yes, thank
and
you
all
very
of you, thanks
much.
for tuning in, for being so patient.
Thank you for everybody for coming this evening. Who's here? The few people, the 2 people, the how many? 4 people.
4 including the book.
4 people including the bookshop. Yes. Thank you all for being with us this evening.
We really hope you enjoyed this one, and if you like it a lot and maybe share it, we might redo this again.
Yes, and please do, if you want to, share it with all your friends and tell them that we are reading, still carrying on reading.
Yes.
Tuesday to Saturday?
Tuesday,
Friday.
Tuesday
to Friday, 21:45. That's 9:45 p.m. for those of you in English.
Central Eastern.
Central Eastern time. So that's an hour ahead of GMT. Is that right? An hour ahead of it? Thank you. That's our guests on the right there. Left. That's my right. They're left. So that's 8:45 p.m. Central. GMT.
It's okay. 9:45 Central Eastern Summertime. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And as usual, I will say
she'll finish off.
What do you do? Your many salams.
Okay, many salams. It was an absolute blessing. It was a blessing and a pleasure to read for you tonight. That was my James Bond finish for the evening. It was a blessing and a pleasure to read for you tonight. And now I will hand you over to Saman.
We wish you all tonight. We wish you all a wonderful night, a peaceful night, and sweet dreams. And as usual, go inwards instead of outwards.
Perfect.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you for the loves and the hearts and the likes.
Thank you. We will reply shortly.
See you soon. Bye.